Today we're going to be doing an art review and critique video, and this is from one of my patrons. Her name is Shauna. We've seen Shauna's works in some of the past videos, so check that out. Look under my channel name and look for some of the past artwork that Shauna's done. So a little bit about me. My name is Walden, a comic book artist for Marvel and DC Comics. You can check out some of my work on my website is waldenwongart.com. And if you're interested in having me critique your artwork and want like me to review it, you can also hit up my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/WaldenWongArt. Over there, there's some tiers. So if you want me to look at your work, you can check that out. And there's also like a thank you like tiers and stuff like that too. So check that out. So without further ado, let's check out Shauna's work. Alright, so this is Shauna's work. She took a photo of this, so it's a little bit pixelated. So I'm going to use Photoshop, and then let's see, image size. I'm going to boost up the resolution because right now it's like kind of like a small size, and boost it up to 300 dpi. Okay, so just a little bit larger, and then after boosting it up, I'm going to sharpen it a little bit, so just to make it a little bit clearer. So I'm going to filter, sharpen a little bit. See if we can sharpen it a little bit more. Sharpen edges, and then filter, sharpen, and then sharpen more. Okay, so this is a little bit clearer. By no means does this mean that you can, if you're an artist and you're scanning your artwork, that doesn't mean scan it in a lower resolution or take a photo and then use Photoshop and boost it up. It's always better to scan your artwork on a flatbed scanner at the highest resolution and then reduce it. So this was how it looked like before. Okay, before I did all the adjustments, and this is how it is now. So the lines are a little bit crisper. Okay, so I'm just gonna save this file first. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at Shauna's work. So we have the clouds, and then you have some birds over here, which is a nice touch. Let's take a look at the character over here. Okay, I think I reviewed this before, and this is like her inked version. There's some stippling on the mountain over here. I do like that there's different like textures here. Just certain areas are darker, certain areas are lighter. There's snow on the top, and then on this area is also like darker on this side and lighter on that side, which is great. You can see that the mountain has like different textures. Okay, on her hair, it looks like there's a little bit of gray wash or a little bit of a tone there, which is a nice touch. If you're doing a black and white comic book, when you're adding tone, such as like underneath the neck over here, that gives more depth to your artwork. So there is some tone like on the face over here and on the side of the face, which is nice. On her body, there's also some tones over here, which is good. Let's take a look at the dress. Good. And then I don't know what these things are. Let's take a look at these. These things here, I don't know if those are iceberg or like a little land or like little ships. But in any case, they're all kind of the same, kind of looks the same. I would just have a little bit of variation. Since this artwork is already done, I would go in there and maybe use a white out or a white gel pen and just do some adjustments. So I'm going to mark it in red with what I do. So when you have things in perspective, and especially if it's on a flat surface, such as the sea, things that are further back, you're going to get like a smaller width and a shorter height. But as the object gets closer, they get wider and also taller. And over here, wider and also taller. See, that gives a perspective in your artwork. So that being said, what I would do is, instead of this cluster over here being smaller than this size, I would actually add a little bit more like this, and then kind of add different textures. Maybe a little bit taller over here, and this one a little bit wider. Okay, so we'll do that in white color. Okay, I do like the details that you're putting in here. Like these little leaves over here, I do see that some of them are taller. Like I like having things look almost as if it's like perfectly printed, like hand drawn. So this part is a little bit color. I would try to draw a guide here. So in the future, Charlotte, if you're drawing something like this, what I would do is I would like sketch out like a guide, kind of like sketch it out in pencil first. After you sketch it out in pencil, kind of like do the divisions, divide it up pretty equally as best as you can. And then once you have that, go in there, divide up the shapes, and then go there and just draw each one. That way you're gonna get like a nice consistency. Like anytime you're drawing or creating artwork, it's better to sketch it very lightly in pencil first and then draw on top. Another way artists will create sketches is blue line pencil. So they'll use like a light blue, almost like kind of like how Disney animators when they first started drawing stuff for movies, they'll sketch everything out in blue, and then after sketching out in blue, they'll pencil it, and then after penciling, they'll ink it. Or they'll just sketch everything nicely in blue, and then they'll just ink it directly on top. Now, why blue, you're asking? The reason for blue is once you have everything sketched in, and then sketched in blue, and then you ink on top of it, when you scan the artwork, you can use Photoshop to knock out everything that's blue. That way, you don't have to go in there and do any erasing. So I'm looking at this part, like these plants over here, there's a little extra space. You see that little, this black area over here? I would actually go in there and maybe extend these, use a white gel pen or whiteout and kind of extend this part out a little bit more. Because if you don't have it, it kind of takes attention away. Like for example, there's this part over here, just this black part, it takes attention away right over here. Okay, this part over here, this big blob over here, it also takes attention away. But if you were to extend this area, like I'm going to circle the area that I'm talking about. If I was going to go extend that white part over here, it's not as distracting. Okay, it won't take away the attention of the female figure that you're doing, which looks very, very nice. Okay, the hair. There's one single line right over here. I would actually go there and add a little bit of thickness to that part, so it's not just one line that's happening. It looks like this part was drawn, but it wasn't like completely finished. So you have a loop here, go in here, and then just maybe go in like this, and then finish that loop like that. That way you have completed hair. Okay, let's take a look at some of the textures on the mountain. So the mountain looks like you went in there and did everything in black first, and then after all was done in black, you went and used like maybe a white pen, maybe like a acrylic marker with a thin tip, or like a gel pen or something. So I do notice that some of these lines, there's a blunt there. Okay, the rounded, which kind of takes attention away. So what I would do is, even if you did it rounded, that's okay, like this part. So I'm gonna use red to show you. After I would do like what you've done over here, like for example this part, I would go in there and use like a brush and use black ink and go on top of it. This way we don't see any of that blunt roundness. So I'm gonna go in here and use black, and then show you what I mean. So now when I ink that part in like this, that line there is straight. It won't be rounded like this. Okay, so I would go in there and kind of draw the line. So that pushes that further into the background. Okay, let's see. We take a look at the hand. So when you're drawing hand, the hand it seems to be the size of the hand is okay, but the hand drawing is a little bit off. When I draw hands, the way I like to draw hands is I'll start with a rectangular, almost like imagine you're drawing a deck of cards. Okay, so you have your wrist over here. When you're drawing the thumb is almost like, I imagine it as a chicken drumstick. Like for example, a chicken drumstick looks kind of like that. Okay, and then after you draw the chicken drumstick, I'll divide this into 4 parts. And then whatever the length of this palm of the hand, that is the length of the finger. So if you're bending the fingers a little bit, you're gonna go in here like that. Now when I'm drawing the other side of the finger, the way I just drew this part, this side. What I'm doing is I'm just repeating those sides like this. And then as you go further back, it gets narrower and narrower. So that's how I draw the hand. So I'm going to erase this part, all these lines that we don't need. And then now you can see how the hand looks. Okay. And then when I draw fingers, I like to add joints to the finger. Like for example, if I drew the hand here, here's the knuckle, and then we have the fingers, and then you have those fingers, and then you have this part here. And I like to kind of overlap it a little bit like that. Okay, so we have that finger, this one on the side, and then you have another one just thinner, and then as you go further back, it goes like that. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other areas. So the bottom part, I do like the pattern that you're creating, but it's also a little bit distracting. Okay, so when I say distracting, take a look at these lines over here. These lines, they're tapered. The tapering is nice, but each one, they're kind of thick compared to this one. This one's thinner. And then also the spacing. Like for example, if you count it here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, but over here you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's much more. So when I'm hatching or cross hatching, I want things to not be that noticeable. So when I say not noticeable, for example, if I had like hatching here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I did some cross basketing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I do want those lines to be consistently thick. Okay, if I was going to taper a line, taper means you're going to go thin and thick. If I was going to do that effect, then everything else that I do would have that same effect. Okay, it would have that same effect like that. Okay, this part, okay, I do like the way you did this. It looks like a, you know, almost like a fabric that's folding over. But then on the other side, you're missing that pattern. So if you were gonna do this pattern here that goes here, I would also do the same for the other side. It's just so it looks more aesthetically pleasing. But if you're doing these strips and then there's no reason for it to have like you know, kind of like a pattern like what we just talked about, then I would just do them all differently. Like for example, I'm going to go in and use this as a paper. So you had this part like this, okay, and then here I would go in there here and do space them evenly. Okay, I'm gonna go thicker. Space them evenly. Very important that you space things evenly, okay? And then go different directions. Okay, you'll notice that I'm not going further apart or thicker. I'm trying to stay as consistent as I can, because as much fun it is to create these lines, you don't want these lines to take over your drawing. You don't want it to like be, you know, take attention away from the girl, okay? So the pattern, I would go in there and just basketing like this. Keep the distance between each line somewhat the same distance, okay, like this, and then go in there and then cross hatch like that, okay. So try not to go all over the place, okay. This way, when you're going out, you have a gray tone, one single gray tone. Okay, but if you are going to go in here and do that pattern like we talked about here, let me draw another one so you can see what I'm doing. We had this thing, and then you wanted that pattern to go like this. Okay, you have this pattern go here. Then I would go in there and do this one thinner. Okay, this one thinner. Okay, I'm going to do this really quickly. Okay, and then on the outside, I'll go thicker. And then when I go thicker on those lines, I keep that thick outline consistent. And then on the inside, the strip that we created over here, I keep that thin consistent, okay? And then when I say consistent, I don't mean like there's 3 lines here or 4 lines here. I'm talking about the spacing in between each line and the thickness of each line. So once I'm done doing all of this, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do this really quickly so you guys can see. Okay, go here. Okay, go here and then here. So once I have that done, you can see this one stands out a little bit more. But if you want things to not stand out, then I would keep everything consistently thick or consistently thin. Also, here's another thing that I noticed. Okay, your spacing. We're not talking about size now. We're talking about the distance. Like the spacing on this one is fairly nice. The distance between each one is nice. But then when we look at the spacing between here, look how wide this line is compared to this line, compared to that line. And then all of a sudden, you have thicker, like further apart and like closer together. Another thing is if you're going to break up those lines, unless there's a reason to, and you're creating like some kind of texture, okay, then it's okay. If you create some kind of texture, then it's okay to have that. But if you're creating something that's not noticeable, what I would do is I would go in there and have this one a little bit longer. So I've learned that if you're doing taper lines, you want those lines to kind of end in the same area. So for example, let me go in there and draw one for you. For example, I'm going to go like this, and then we have those things. I'm going to rotate this, okay? And then when I draw those lines, I want it to be consistently next to each other, and also wherever it starts and wherever it ends will kind of be in the same area, okay? Unless you're drawing like some kind of like texture, which you're not focusing on those lines over there, okay? Okay, let's take a look at this. Yeah, so here's another tip that I can give you. I know that when you're inking these lines, you're stopping like right over there, which is good, which is nothing wrong. A lot of artists they'll just stop right there. Some artists they'll cut out a piece of paper. Like for example, they'll use post-it notes. Like for example, if I had a post-it note, pretend a rectangle is a post-it note. Okay, I'll just stick a post-it note right here. And I'll stick like multiple post-it notes like this, just to mask off the areas that I don't want to ink, like this. And then I'll go in there and then I'll ink those lines one at a time, like that. So once that's done and then the ink is dry, I remove the post-it notes, and then I'll have that nice crisp line over there. The other option is to go in there and ink everything with a black line, and whatever sticks out, just let it like have it come out. Wait for everything to dry, and then use whiteout. Use whiteout and just go on top and kind of like white everything out. But it looks like you did everything nicely over here. I would not have this line over here, that line, just because you want to keep everything consistent. And then there's a little. This piece, I would also erase this part like that, okay? Let's take a look at these lines. So the same thing for the mountains. You're creating textures, but then there's some things that distracts when it comes to the inking part. This part, you see the extra one over there? Okay, from the get-go, try to keep your lines spaced evenly, consistently. I know sometimes when you're looking at it, you'll have like, oh, you have this extra thicker big part. I'm just gonna go in there and add that line, that white line, which is okay. But then when I'm looking at this, I'll see dash lines over here and here. And then it makes me think of like, I don't know, like something, maybe like a worm or something, okay? But what I'll do is I would just make sure that when I'm inking, and then I'm inking a mountain like this, I would just focus on making sure that I keep those lines consistent, okay? One way to do that, and I don't know if you were doing that, I would go in there and I would rotate the canvas, use your left hand and kind of like rotate it, turn it around. This way, when you're drawing lines, you can use your wrist like a compass, okay? That way you can get more consistent lines like this, okay? Let's take a look at the clouds. Clouds look good. Clouds looks like captions. If you want, you can even add a little bit more details to the cloud. Like I can tell that you like adding a lot of details over here, like especially here and here, the hair. Try to see if you can go in there and then add like a shadowy part of the cloud, like just a little bit over here and there. So it gives it more, you did. I see some gray tones over here. Yeah, so you can use gray tones, and then, yeah, so I do see some gray tones that Shauna added over here, which is nice. Just add a little bit more. Probably when you took a photo of this, your flash removed some of the gray tones that I couldn't see it. Okay, the back of the hair, okay, that looks okay. I would actually go, instead of having this sharp point over there, I would have this part kind of go a little bit higher. So I'm going to erase this part like this. And then some of these parts, I wouldn't have them all like, kind of looks like a, yeah, I wouldn't have them all exactly like that. The way I would draw like this, the part of the center of the hair is I would just add a few lines like this, and then just add a few lines like that. Don't try not to have them connect together like that. I mean, you can, but it just looks nicer that that if it's the hair is just kind of like going like that. Okay, don't have that line in the middle. Yeah, like what you did here. So this part that you did without that line in the middle, it just looks way nicer. Okay, let's see. So now we're going to talk about gray tones. Okay, so the light source we have on your drawing. Let me take a quick look. Looks like the light source is coming from right over here. So let's say this right here is a light source. So it's coming this direction. Okay, so I'm gonna go in here and add a little bit more grays to your artwork. So I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna make it darker. And let's see. Okay, so we have grays. Let me make this gray color. Okay, so I would add more grays. Okay, so right over here, especially if you're doing like a black and white comic book, add a little bit more underneath the hair, especially around this area. Okay, I would also add some gray tones underneath the eyebrow, above the eyelid, because that's where the shadow is cast. Okay, also on the bottom of the nose, add a little bit of a shadow, and then on this side of the nose, underneath the chin, and then more on this side of the mouth. Okay, so now if you look at the face, we add a little bit more in here too. Okay, so now I'm gonna remove what I created, and then you can see the before and after. So like right here, so let's see, let me see if I can go. So removing that, okay, you see the gray tones? There's just more perspective if you add more gray tones. Okay, I don't know if you're using ink and then you're diluting with water. Okay, so I would add more around here. Okay, also on this side of the neck, because the hair over here is casting a shadow on the neck. I would also add some gray tones on this side and then on this side as well, like this. Okay, on the arm, on the left arm, I would add some gray tones here, and then I would contour that along with some of the folds. So if you had a fold here like this, okay, I look at the shape of the arm. Okay, there's a shoulder. Here's some shadows here. I would add some shadows on this side. But when I add the shadows, you'll notice that I'm not adding that gray tone on the line. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm adding it above that line. Same with this side. And let me go in here and add over here, and then make this round part, and then add right here, and then make this round part. Okay, and then on the bottom of the torso, I will add that area right here. So more shadows over there. On the stomach, you can even add like a little bit more, just to show more form of her body. And then right over here, more shadows. I think about the anatomy of the figure. Okay, underneath the arm, because the arm is in front of the dress, I would add a shadow right over here. See that? Over there. On the folds, I would also add shadows in between the folds. Maybe another one underneath this arm, and then some shadows underneath here. Okay, and then on the leg, good job adding the shadows over here, but I would also have some shadows over here. Okay, now you notice that I left a little bit of a white strip over here. I didn't do all of that. I'll add that little bit of gray tone, but I'll leave this side little bit of a white line over there, okay? The reason I did that is to separate the two legs over there, okay? Now that you have the shadow here, this leg, because her right leg is in front of her left leg, there should be more shadows on this side. So I'm gonna add a little bit more shadows to this one on the back, and then shadows on the back over here, okay? On the boot as well. Okay, so now we have the shadows, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of shadows. I don't know if this is a one-piece sundress or if this is a dress and then a top. I'm gonna add some shadows over here just to give it more. Okay, also some shadows on the area that folds. There. Okay, so now we added all the shadows, and then now back to the hair. The right head, you did do some gray tones on the hair, but then I'm gonna think about where the light source is and also add more. So I'm gonna randomly add splotches based on some of the curves that I see on your artwork. Okay, so on this side, okay, a little bit on this side, on the bottom side, and then a little bit on this side. And then what I'm doing is I'm following some of the curves that you're creating in the artwork, okay? I'm adding some shadows even on the outside, behind, above, you know, the snow area. Okay, I need to use red to mark so you know what I'm talking about. So for example, you have a snow area here, you have a snow area here. So because of that, I'm gonna go in there and add some tones over here, some gray tones. Just pops the figure forward out a little bit. From the background, the snow area. So here, add some shadows to the bottom. There, and then if you can, when you're doing the gray tones, kind of go in there and see if you can blend that gray tone into the white. So I'm just gonna, so to blend that, if you're using just water and the paint, just clean your brush and then go in there and kind of like swipe the side over here a little bit. I'm going to increase my strength on this, and then go over there and just make it soft on one side, okay? So a little bit softer will give it a nice soft feel, okay? So like for example, like the face over here, a little bit softer here, softer on some of this, softer on the nose area, like that. And there you go, okay? Yeah, that's my art review and critique. Good, you did a good job, Shauna. Remember you penciling this, and then I asked you, well, make sure you show the neck, make sure the hair is like coming forward. Yeah, this looks really nice. Shauna's one of my patrons who tells me that she's not an artist, but when I look at her work, it looks really good. She has a few more images that she sent me, and I'm gonna review those, so stay tuned for those. Those looks really nice. So there you go. That's Shauna's art review and critique. She's one of my patrons. She sent me the artwork, and then I take a look at it, and then I give tips and some tricks just to help her do better with some of her artwork. So if you're interested in being one of my patrons under the mentorship, then we'll check out my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/WaldenWongArt, and over there there's different tiers. You can select the mentorship tier. So if you want me to take a look at your work and make a video such as this one for you, check that out. And if you want to learn more about me, again, my name is Walden Wong. I'm a comic book artist from Walden, DC. You can check out my website. That website is waldenwongart.com. Over there, there's lots of different things that you can look at. So until next time, keep on drawing. The more you draw, the more you learn, the better you'll get. I always think of art as a medium where you're constantly learning, and the more you learn from everyone, the better you get, regardless of what you do. Take care and have a good day. Bye.